Imagine waking up one morning, not in a city, not in a village, but 100,000 years ago. There are no roads, no houses, no mirrors, no fashion brands, just forests, rivers, wild animals, and survival. Now here's a question almost nobody asks. If early humans barely wore anything, why did women eventually begin covering their bodies? Was it religion? Was it modesty? Was it because men forced them to? Or is the real answer something completely different? The truth is far more fascinating than most people imagine, because women's clothing wasn't invented overnight. It evolved over tens of thousands of years. And the real reason has almost nothing to do with fashion. The first humans didn't own wardrobes. In fact, scientists believe our earliest ancestors lived with little or no clothing in the warm African climate. Their bodies were naturally adapted to heat. But then the Earth changed. As the humans migrated into colder regions, freezing temperatures became deadly. Suddenly, animal skins became more than decoration. They became the difference between life and death. Archaeologists even discovered that tiny insects called body lice only survive inside clothing. Their appearance around 170,000 years ago suggests humans had already begun wearing clothes long before written history. And here's something important. This wasn't just women and men. Women and children all wore clothing for exactly the same reason: to survive. Thousands of years passed. Humans stopped wandering. They built farms. Villages became cities. People learned to weave plant fibers into cloth: linen, wool, cotton. Clothing was no longer just protection from the cold. It became a way of saying, "This is who I am." Rich families wore expensive fabrics. Workers wore simple clothing. Leaders wore special garments. And slowly, women's clothing began evolving differently from men's. But why? There wasn't one single reason. There were many. Pregnancy made certain clothing designs more practical. Mothers carrying babies needed freedom of movement. Different jobs required different outfits. In many cultures, women became skilled weavers, creating beautiful fabrics that reflected family traditions. Then came another powerful force: society. As civilizations grew, clothing began showing social status: marriage, age, occupation, religion, even wealth. Over time, many cultures also developed ideas about modesty. But here's the interesting part. Every civilization defined modesty differently. Ancient Egyptians often wore light linen because of the hot climate. Some Greek women wore long flowing dresses. In parts of ancient India, clothing styles varied depending on region, climate, and local traditions. There was never one universal rule. History wasn't that simple. One of the biggest myths is that women started covering themselves because someone suddenly made a rule. History doesn't support that idea. Instead, women's clothing evolved gradually. Climate shaped it. Technology changed it. Culture influenced it. Religion added meaning. Trade introduced new fabrics. Every civilization created its own traditions. The story wasn't written by one person. It was written by thousands of years of human history. So, why did ancient women start wearing clothes? Not because of one king, not because of one religion, not because of one law. The journey began with survival. It continued through culture and eventually became part of our identity. Today, every piece of clothing we wear carries a history stretching back tens of thousands of years. What began as protection against the cold became one of humanity's greatest forms of expression. And perhaps that's the most incredible part. When you look at clothing today, you're not just looking at fabric. You're looking at the story of human civilization itself. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden history behind everyday life, subscribe to Shak Studio, because every ordinary question has an extraordinary answer waiting to be discovered.